the one, the only, Bencio
Morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, ideally speaking, as we continue chapter 13 in the book, 10 Really Dumb Mistakes That Very Smart Couples Make. And here we're going to find out something about being friends, titled Best Friends Who Love Each Other. That's what, ideally, according to the author, you're supposed to be. Re'im Ahuvim, he quotes from Sheva Brachos, Re'im Ahuvim, your friends who love each other. First you're friends, then you love each other. He gives an example over here. It's 6:30 p.m. A young man comes home from work, plops himself down on the couch, pulls out the newspaper, and buries himself in the news. What happened to his phone? His wife, working in the kitchen, can't believe her eyes. Here I am, slaving away, making dinner. The kids are destroying the apartment. He's just going to sit there? She doesn't say a thing, but the steam starts to rise, and it's not from the pot on the stove. One kid pulls down some books. Another one knocks over a chair. Finally, she's had it. She stalks over to the couch, points a finger at her husband, and says, "All right, mister, off that couch. You're either cooking dinner or you're taking care of the kids, but you are not just sitting there." He dutifully gets up, the beta male that he is, gets up and goes over to help with the kids. Did she do the right thing? Someone would answer, absolutely. Some would even say, she's a hero. Many men would even agree that she's right. If your wife is cooking dinner and kids are wrecking the apartment, get up and help. But even if it really was the wrong time for him to relax on the couch, her reaction damaged the relationship. As he says, she just made the 9th really dumb mistake that very smart couples make, forgetting that you are best friends. You are best friends. That's not the way friends talk to each other. He says, I'll ask a couple who have been married 10 years, are you two friends? Well, they respond, we love each other. Yes, but are you friends? What do you mean? We're married for more than a decade. I know, but are you friends? Well, we used to be friends, they finally admit, but now we don't know. Friendship is one of those tools that bond. There are 4 rules of friendship. So he's going to talk about how you become friends, because according to him, this is essential for a good marriage. Now, before he gets into the 4 points, I'd like to say this. I don't think a husband and wife relationship should be thought of as friends. People always say this. People even write in their phones, my bestie or my best friend. You know, they don't even write the name of the person. You're not friends as a husband and wife. Just like you're not friends with your parents, you're not friends with your siblings, and you're not friends with your kids. You're not. Because the difference in a friendship and family is as follows. That's your family. 7 Krovim, the Torah defines as your family. Friendship and family is very different. Friendship basically means that we'll spend time together. We'll do things that we enjoy together when it's mutually beneficial for both of us. If it's not mutually beneficial for both of you, and one person is doing a favor to the other person, that's not a friendship. That's called a chesed. That's called, which I don't even think the Torah is supportive of. The Torah supports gemilas chesed and the payback favor. Does not support chesed. Don't be a mitzvah person. And a lot of people do this. Most friendships in the world, between men and women and women, they're not real friendships, right? You go on Facebook, you have, I don't know, I have close to 1,400 friends on Facebook. I don't even know most of these people are. But even the people that are quote unquote like friends, like, one person wrote a post on Facebook, said, I have 1,200 friends and only 10 people wish me happy birthday on my birthday. So much for friends on Facebook. I mean, the concept of friends is a made-up concept. I mean, first of all, when you're single, at least in the frum Jewish world, right? You want to have a social life. You're not going to socialize with women. Women are not going to socialize with men. So you make friends. People that are similar to you, share interests with. A lot of times people will have a lot of friends just so they can show off and be popular, right? Ideally, a person doesn't have room, even before they're married, for more than 2 or 3 friends. That they have a good time together. When it's bad for one of them, don't be friends. That's just the way friendship is. If you're not doing that, if you're just either you're being nice and want to be a friend to someone when it's not good for you, or right, or vice versa, basically it's just a chesed. It's not a friendship, and you're just doing it for some ulterior motive that people should think you're a social person or a friendly person. If you're really interested in yourself, what's good for you. And after you're married, maybe one friend, maybe one male friend for a man, maybe one woman friend for a woman. You can have you can have acquaintances. People have a lot of acquaintances. they make small talk with, and they go to all their weddings. That's a problem with the weddings, right? Because everyone invites, they want people to have a lot of friends, so they invite all their acquaintances. But people that are your neighbors, people that you have kids in the same class, people you do carpool with, people in your shul, those are not your friends. I'm sorry. Don't think of him as your friend. People always call him my friend from shul. He's not your friend from shul. He's an acquaintance. The reason you're both there is because you're davening with a minyan, or you're going to Shabbos prayers over there together. He's not your friend. Friends are somebody that you really have a deep connection to, and if you'd see the person, you spend time talking to them because you mutually enjoy each other's company. If it's not like that, better not have any friends. And that gets back to marriage, because marriage, your wife is one of your Zion Krovim. She's your family. There's in family and friends. As family, you would make an effort to have a relationship, even though you're completely different. Even though I have one interest, right? I'm from, and my sibling is not from, or vice versa. Or my parents are from, vice versa. Whatever. Or they're different. They're boring, I'm excited. Or I'm boring and they're excited. It doesn't make a difference. Family is family. And from the fact that the Torah has so many different halachas about the Zion Krovim, whether it comes to Avelos, whether it comes to burying people and things like that, shows that you have an obligation to have a relationship with 7 people in your life. 7 types of people in your life. That's family. Friends, you have no obligation. Your friend asks you to do a favor for him, it's not good for you, don't do it. Don't feel compelled what he'll think. He's taking advantage of you. Don't do it. Obviously, you have to gauge whether, you could do it, and as a friend, he'll be able to pay you back with some sort of favor for you. It makes sense when they do a favor for somebody, because they'll do it for you also. But family is more than that. Your family asks you to do something, you try as hard as you can to do that. I'm not saying give them a loan, because that ruins your family relationship. But families should try to maintain a relationship, not a financial relationship, but you should maintain a familial relationship where you're close to each other and you bond and you try to spend time together and call each other, and have a relationship. Make yourself go out of your comfort zone to have a relationship with your family. I did this. I still continue to do this. Some people in my family have great relationships, some I don't. But the reason I have a great relationship with my wife is because I don't think of her as a friend. I think of her as family. Family is a lot deeper bond. And don't think of your wife as a friend. It's a big mistake. Big mistake. Maybe at Sheva Brachos, Re'em Ahuvim, you're having a good time. Sheva Brachos is fun. You're partying. Who doesn't like spending together time when you're partying? But as life goes on, there's more difficulties, more challenges. And the only reason you're staying together and helping each other and being there for each other is because you're family and not friends. Don't forget that. Big mistake the author is making over here. However, the first rule of friendship is actually true. I'm only going to read the first rule because that's in the first half of this chapter. He basically talks about don't be a boss to your spouse, right? Like he gave the example at the beginning. He says, he gives an example over here. This is, I think, a great example, actually. It's called ham sandwich and smoking a cigar. Imagine this Yom Kippur. In the middle of the day, a woman comes home from shul and finds her husband sitting on the couch eating a ham sandwich and smoking a cigar. She does what any self-respecting woman would do. Put that down right now. It's Yom Kippur. What's wrong with you? I don't have to tell you what she's doing. What he's doing is wrong. She has every right to be aghast, shocked, and certainly upset. But what she did wasn't right either, because she stepped outside her role as a friend and lover. You may say, what do you mean? It's Yom Kippur. He's violating the most basic halakha. Doesn't she have the right to demand that he stop? The answer is that she has every right to demand that he stop if she were his rabbi, mentor, mother. But that's not what she is. She's his life partner. She's his friend, equal partner in the thing called marriage. But not in charge of him, not his boss, not his rav. He says a very interesting story, which I think is true. Not a teacher. When we were first married, my wife and I decided, the author says, to learn Mesilas Yesharim together. It seemed like a fine idea. The first time we learned together went well. At least I thought it did. The second time it didn't go so well. After that, my wife said that she'd rather not learn together anymore. I didn't understand. Was it something I said? No, she said. I don't know. I feel like I'm in school and you're the teacher. To this day, I'm not comfortable my wife attends my shiurim. That's not our relationship. That's not the role I have with her. We are Re'em Ahuvim, friends who love each other. We are not teacher and student. Now, I don't think it's necessary to say that because you're friends, you shouldn't boss each other around or make someone frummer, right? This happens so often in relationships. Now, people will say one of the main grounds for divorce is when one of the spouses change their religious, at least in the frum Jewish world, they change their religious outlook. Either they're more from, they became less from, or they became more from, and now the husband and wife are not on equal footing. One is very religious, one's not religious at all, right? It could happen. People become completely secular. It's very hard to maintain a relationship like that. But even though most people tell you get divorced in that situation, I don't agree with that. I think marriage is family. Just like family, right? You have a relationship, even if your parents are secular or you're secular, whatever it is. You have a responsibility to have a relationship with them. It doesn't make a difference. Family, breaks all boundaries. It doesn't you don't have to have any mutual interests. The only mutual interest is that your family, your relatives, and because you're relatives, that's why you should have a relationship, and that's why a husband and wife shouldn't be bossing each other around. Just like you shouldn't be bossing around your sibling, or for that matter, your child. People think you have to make your child from Chanuch Lenar Pidarko, right? If you learn Maseches Baba Kama, if you like Maseches Baba Kama, let him learn Baba Kama. If you like Maseches Kedushin, let him learn Maseches Kedushin. No, Chanuch Lenar Pidarko, whatever derech he has in life. Whether you're from and the kid is secular, you're secular, the kid is from, you should love your kid unconditionally. Why does it matter that he has to be exactly like you? People think, there's so many stories. I think I heard Rav Shach's other Gedolim. Their children went off the derech. His child, Rav Shach's child, went to YU, Yeshiva University. He was Dati Leumi. So he cut off relationships. Reportedly, even he sat Shiva when his son left to go. I think he was in the army for a point, and he went to study at graduate school at Yeshiva University, and he became a math teacher or something like that. There's so many stories. They sat Shiva. You said Shiva, you're cutting off a relationship, and he wouldn't talk to his son. Once his wife died, he wouldn't talk to his son. You wouldn't talk to your son? This is the Gadol Ador. He's supposed to know. We listen to the Gadol Ador for all our decision making from Haredi world, and this is what he does. He cut off a relationship with his son. Come on, ridiculous. Absolutely terrible. And it comes back to marriage also. Who cares if the wife is secular, or the husband is secular? Have a relationship. And Kol Shekin, certainly, if one of the spouses is not exactly the same from Kaidi as you. I'll use this in my example. I mean, when I got married, I was Haredi, regular Haredi. There's no such thing as regular Haredi, but mainstream Haredi. But I changed. I've changed in the last couple of years. And the reason I've changed is because I realized that it doesn't make any sense, Haredi Judaism, for married people. It makes a lot of sense for people that are not married, but for married people, you have to be a responsible person. You have to take care of your wife, your kids. Ideally, you have to earn a living, and you have to do when you're earning a living, when you open the business world, there's no option not to have a smartphone, an unfiltered smartphone. There's no option. I don't know what all these tricks they're trying to do, but really the real option, if you want to not make yourself crazy, is to have an unfiltered smartphone, unfiltered internet in the house. This is just normal, being part of the world. It's crazy because these people who sit in ivory towers, the rabbis sit in ivory towers, they learn all day. I just heard a story. I'm not coming to bash people, but I just heard this story on Shabbos, and it was said in a positive note. The book, a story of Chaim Kanievsky, who was considered the Gadol Ador until he passed away. So many books have been written about him. He was engaged to his wife. His wife, they barely talked during their engagement period, but his wife was coming to his house for Shabbos while they were engaged. He went to the central bus station in Jerusalem to pick her up. And it turns out that she ended up in Bnei Brak, right, without him. They asked what happened. She said, I didn't see him, so I just went on the bus and I went to Bnei Brak by myself. So his father, the Stipler, he said, he must have been learning. He went there, he took a taxi back to the central bus station, and there he saw his son, who was learning a Sefer. And the person who said this story, they said over it, how wonderful for Chaim Kanievsky. Even, when he should be loving his wife during engagement period, he should have affection for her and love her, he still forgot about all these worldly pursuits and was immersed in Torah. And that was his defining character. He was able to, basically tune out the rest of the world, even the most primal urges of people to be with your Kala, your fiance. He was able to disregard them and learn Torah. There's so many things that are wrong about this story. And to think that we, as a Haredi world in Israel, for many years was hanging on every word that this person said, when this person, now, I don't know if he ever regretted what he did. He thought what he did was wrong. But the fact that people tell stories like this and tell them in a positive light, are you crazy? You have to be normal. If you, are we listening to the Gadol Hador who's completely not normal? I mean, it's the opposite completely of normal. I mean, his colleague, you should have feelings for your colleague. You hear the author talk, Ray and Mahuf, at least be friends with her. I mean, come on. You're learning there? Look for your fiance. It's terrible. It's a travesty. And the Haredim are hanging on every word. We won't move an arm or leg without Chaim Kanievsky. Chaim Kanievsky. No one should listen to a word he says. People should be telling him what to do, honestly. So, at the end of the day, that's really, what it comes down to. The reason I left, I'm not secular, but the reason I don't agree with Haredi Judaism, it doesn't make sense. You have to be a grown up. People like Rav Chaim Kanievsky, you never grew up. They remained children their entire lives. So you have to grow up, and that's why I changed. I don't feel comfortable wearing a polo shirt. It's white. I'd really rather wear colors, but I made it agree with my wife. My wife comes from a Haredi family. I grew up modern Orthodox. I changed. I became Haredi. We were both relatively the same. I was probably even firmer than my wife when we got married. But I don't wear a black hat because it looks strange. I don't wear my sisters out. It looks strange. I don't want to look strange myself. I want to look put together. I wear a white polo shirt because it's hot during the summer. I'm not going to wear a hat and jacket during the summer. It's crazy. It's crazy to do that. People do this. It's really hot. I'm not going to wear one of those button-down white short-sleeve shirts. You look like a nerd. I care about how I look. Do it for myself. I dress like myself. There's other coolers that I do in a halacha. But, I realize that life hits you when you get married. And I don't think there should be a dividing point. Even though it is a sore topic in my marriage. It's not easy, my marriage. We have a very good marriage. But this is, obviously the thing that pulls us apart the most. But we try to work with it, and I don't believe you should not stay married because you have ideological differences. Even if you're one person completely secular. I'm not completely secular. I keep the Torah mitzvos. I give 40 shiurim a week. People say, oh, he looks different on the outside. But who else? Which other rabbi in the Haredi world giving 40 shiurim a week? Come on. With the iyun that I give. Original chidushim on every daf, every mishnah almost, and every Siman and Shulchan Aruch. I mean, you can't find someone like, a Talmud Chacham like me. There's no one Talmud Chacham. There's no one Amaris like me also. Amaris is a good thing, to know about the world. You can't understand the Torah if you don't know about the world. So, at the end of the day, these are not things that should get in the way of a marriage. But he's 100% right, the author, is to say that it ruins a marriage when one spouse tries to be a rabbi for the other spouse. That's not your job. Your job is to have a relationship. Despite what the person is doing, ignore it, even though it bothers you, right? A lot of women have this problem. They get married, and their husbands don't get up right on time for Shachar. They go to the 9 o'clock minyan. They come late to the 9 o'clock minyan. And they're waking them up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Because they taught in seminary, your husband has to go down at 7:30 in the morning. He has to learn Kollel, come on time. But the reality is, when you get married, you have to just cool off a little bit. Otherwise, you won't be able to talk to your wife. You won't build a relationship with your wife. You won't have a relationship with your children. Women don't understand this, right? If you don't cool off, if you're this ultra, hot guy, basically, I don't mean hot, I mean on fire, that basically you're learning every second. Women don't realize you're not going to have a relationship with them. You're going to be at night Seder about till 1 o'clock. You're going to have a terrible relationship with your wife. It's good for the woman that the man is chilled out a little bit, is not so machmir in Shachar, it's not so machmir in halacha, because it's going to help your marriage. Women don't realize this because the seminaries. The worst is the seminaries. Seminaries inculcate in these women, these Beis Yaakov girls, that I've even heard. But Monsignor Schaefer went on the author of the Sefer, he went on a podcast, and he talked about, and he said that they inculcate and tell the girls in seminary to be rebbeim for their husbands. Make sure they get it for Shachris, because you're sharing Olam Haba, right? If he doesn't do it, he doesn't learn Torah all day, you're not going to get your Olam Haba. That's what they say in seminaries, and he said this at seminaries. Best seminaries out there. He said seminaries have to stop telling them, stop being the mashgiach. You're not a mashgiach. You don't have oversight over your husband. Don't do it to your husband. Don't tell him to wake up in the morning. Don't tell him to be machmer in this halakha. First of all, it's not going to be good for you in the end. And second of all, it ruins the relationship because you're family. You don't tell other people what to do. You're not a rabbi, right? So this is obvious stuff, but it's so hard when you're inculcated with this Beis Yaakov mentality. The worst culprits out there, even worse than the yeshivas out there, because the yeshivas tell you to learn night seder, they tell you to take money for an apartment. They're here in Israel. They say to force money for an apartment. They tell you to make sure to learn 24/7 even after you're married on Fridays, night seder. It doesn't make sense after marriage. You should be getting a job, let alone kollel. The worse than the yeshivas are the seminaries. And even the author of this book said this, and that's the biggest problem, and it destroys marriages tremendously. That's what I like to say about this chapter. We'll do the second half of chapter 13 later in the week. See you later in the week.